Okay, welcome to this second video when we're looking at leadership and motivation. So if we just start by what we've discussed earlier on, actually saying, well, what is motivation? And motivation concerned very much with the desire to do something or to achieve a particular result. And if you remember, I actually introduced the concept of carrots and sticks, which are characterised by the use of both reward, the carrot, and punishment, the stick, to induce cooperation and influence behaviour. And we're just going to look at a few management theories on motivation. So first of all, we're going to look at theories X and theories Y. Now, Douglas McGregor's theory of motivation, or the XY theory, proposes that organisations follow one or two approaches in how it manages people. So let's have a look at theory X. Well, theory X works on the basis it assumes that most people have a dislike of work and wherever possible they'll avoid it. And there you go, got a picture here of Homer Simpson, who says it all. It says that motivation needs to be about the production elements, so rewarding performance and emphasising a fair day's work. And the Chartered Management Institute observe the evidence for the correctness of this assumption would seem to most managers to be incontrovertible. Now, the theory does assume there is dislike for work. Work has to be avoided at all possible chances, and that workers need to be coerced, controlled, directed, and threatened with punishment for them to provide adequate effort to achieve the organisational goal. And thirdly, this theory assumes that people want to be directed, they have little ambition, and are more concerned with having a secure job. And this theory is known as the authoritarian management style. So that's theory X. If we look at theory Y, and I think it's arguable to say that theory Y is totally opposite. And he actually argues that work is a natural part of life, as natural as play and rest, and can actually be very satisfying. It's a natural phenomenon. It argues that people seek and accept responsibility. It recognises that people are able to work on self-direction and seek this responsibility, and that the satisfaction of the job provides commitment, responsibility, and is generally accepted and welcomed. And there is actually the ability to think creatively. It's held by many, but used by a few towards dealing with issues. And there's an intellectual potential of the average human being is actually being underused. So this theory is known as participative management style. So theory X argues on the need to coerce, and theory Y on the opposite, looking at collaboration. Okay, if we look at another theory now, extrinsic theory and the intrinsic theory. And this theory is very much that extrinsic motivation comes from the outside. It comes from money. It comes from the cheering crowd. And it comes from the avoidance of punishment. Whereas the intrinsic motivation actually comes from within inside you. It's your interests. It's your enjoyment. So remember, extrinsic is outside motivators, and the intrinsic is the inside motivators. If we look at Mayo's theory now of human relations, and Elton Mayo is often referred to as the grandfather of the human relations movement. And Elton Mayo, in the early part of the 20th century, argued that human relations was a theory for motivation, and he carried out a series of experiments at the Western Electric Company at the Hawthorne plant in Chicago. Now, as a result of these experiments, he argues that teamwork is an important motivator, and that managers should take an interest in their workers. Managers need to take that interest in their staff. And he suggests that the physical conditions and pay actually matter less than the social interaction when motivating employees. He goes on to argue that workers will be motivated if they have the opportunity to work in a team. He argues they're motivated if they can be involved in the direction and decision making of the organisation, and if they can have access to effective communication channels with managers and other workers. So that's Mayo's theory. Room, in 1964, came up with expectancy theory, and this works on the basis that our behaviour results from a conscious decision, and that processes linked to the perception of life's outcomes and the valence, or the value, of likely outcomes. So it recognises the individual nature of motivation. So M, or motivation, is the sum of expectancy multiplied by the value, or the valence. And that E is the expectancy, it's the strength of belief of a desired outcome is possible. And V, the value, the valence of the outcome for the individual. I'd encourage you to watch the video, which is linked to here, and afterwards to see if you can explain why the same reward motivates people differently, or the same task might appeal to one person and not another. And again, that's something we can then all discuss together in the session. I think for managers applying expectancy theory, they really have to try and tailor rewards to the things that particular employees value most. So for some it's money, others time, others rewards, some it's job status, and some it's holidays. And employees must be involved through perhaps questionnaires or interviews so that their expectations or valences can actually be known. If we look now at the goal setting theory, and this was something which Edwin Locke came up with in the 1960s, and what he actually proposed, that specific goals are accepted by employees and they can improve any action. So goal setting is essentially linked to task performance, and that specific and challenging goals, along with appropriate feedback, contributes to higher and better task performance. So for example, goals can indicate and give direction to an employee about what needs to be done and how much effort is required to be put in. So goals must be suitably challenging, and there must be this level of feedback. But with this, there does need to be the willingness towards the attainment of goals as the main source of job motivation. And there's got to be very much a clear, particular and difficult goals rather than anything which is perhaps easygoing and vague. So as a reminder, goals must be clear and specific. If they are, there's greater output and a better performance. They need to be realistic and challenging. They need to give pride and triumph. And the goals very much need to be SMART goals. And if you remember, we think about things which are specific, which are measurable, achievable, or in this case assignable, realistic, and time-based or time-scaled. So, just to summarise this then, that managers undertaking the leadership role do need to think about the motivation. They need to decide how they're going to try to motivate, what they think will motivate their staff, and does the job deliver these motivations.